Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
I don't think the public realizes that child raping guilds run the Western governments.
Well, yeah, that's the case. And I mean, the situation in the UK is that over the past decade, state abductions of babies under 1 month old has increased by 300%. And the vast majority of those abductions are by force, not by people giving them up for adoption.
And they leave all the foreigners alone. They want those white babies.
And it's because they're paid bonuses to meet quotas. I've got an article out of the Daily Mail from February 2008 which talks about how social services are paid bonuses to snatch babies for adoption. So that's another motivation for them.
As much as £250,000 to adopt out one of the babies, and then they get tens of thousands of pounds in bonuses. These are literally private agencies run by pedophiles snatching children. Go ahead.
That's right, and the latest advancement of this is, as I wrote about in the article, the creation of a new government agency, the Independent Safeguarding Authority. Some of the individuals of which sit on the board of this organisation are involved with, quote, treatment and rehabilitation for sex offenders. That's certainly nothing to worry about, I'm sure. And you'll always find they're totally obsessed with it. They're involved in it. Most of them will be convicted child rapers, and of course they'll also be into every other form of evil you can imagine. And it gives some of the examples from a think tank report that's been released by this Professor Frank Ferretti, who talks about a woman could not kiss her daughter goodbye on a school trip because she had not been vetted by this government agency. So now they've got it down to the level where you can't even interact with your own children in public.
Can't take them to a pool. Can't get them out of their swimsuit into their clothes. They're making normal behavior bad because they are either A, abused themselves and mentally ill, or B, child rapers.
Yeah, they're the ones that are perverted. I mean, you brought up the example of a half-naked child with his backside showing in a photograph, and there was a case today where Asda, which is the British version of Walmart, it's owned by the same people, they refused to develop a photograph because they thought it was an example of paedophilia, because this woman wanted a picture of her son when he was a naked baby to put on his 21st birthday cake.
Yeah, they take a good, wholesome thing like, the Michelin baby that would be sitting in the tire. Illegal!
And if you think about it, when people see images, when normal people of sound mind see images like that, they don't think anything. There's only perverts who would get something perverted out of images like that.
Well, so Paul, I mean, it's come out in our news. The local papers will say really bad stuff went on, but you go read the police reports, and they had to fire a couple thousand people, but very few prosecutions, and literally huge youth facilities with 10, 12, 14-year-olds with the judges and cops coming in to and locals to pay to have sex with the children. And the government is bankrupt, folks. They're totally evil.
Right, and the flip side of these child safety laws is that there's another article today out of The Guardian. Child safety laws mean adults scared to approach children. And it gives examples where a children falls over in the road and the adult is scared to even help them out for fear of being looked upon as a child abuser or a pedophile.
Listen, I go to birthday parties and you say hi to the children, or they're talking to you, or they say something to your child, and you say hi, they won't even talk to you. It's creating mental illness. It's totally... Oh, it's just incredible. Meanwhile, the public's trained to trust school administrators and cops and social workers when the government's own numbers 5 times more likely to abuse kids.
And it creates the Stasi informant society, this order of suspicion around everyone. Which mirrors exactly what happened in Nazi Germany. I mean, I mentioned it in the article. In that case, the government snatching all the kids was a precursor for Hitler's eugenics program, because Dr. Mengele needed plenty of subjects to experiment on. And
by the way, as much as 10% of the population by the end had their children taken.
Yeah, and what would happen is, I've got quotes out of a history book that I was just looking at a couple of hours ago. Quote, in some jurisdictions, officials from the institutions drove around the countryside to the smaller houses and picked out frail children and those with mental handicaps for transfer to the killing institutions. And the thing about it was, they didn't just pick disabled children. They made up emotional problems. They manufactured emotional problems.
Which is the same thing here, and then we have all the cases, whereas they don't usually kill the white babies because they get a lot of money. The black babies, they test pesticides and drugs on until death. And by the way, that was in the New York Daily News a few years ago. They murder them.
Yeah.
And it's all the same eugenics. Hitler got it from us.
Quote, public health officials, teachers and social workers were also required to report children suspected of having emotional problems. Social control was exercised through the free recreational after-school programs and Nazi youth groups.
Now, you look at the programs in 6th and 7th grade, it says where they're now in a class for a semester, half the year, and the BATF or other deputized, it's a local, but they're deputized, and it says they're with them in the after school, they take them on field trips, and they say on the news they report on their parents. I mean, folks, this is pure tyranny. Go ahead.
Yeah, we had a case in 2006 that I wrote about in Indiana, which is if a kid doesn't do their homework, they have to attend mandatory after-school classes. And in that instance, the school threatened parents with police and CPS involvement because they... Are you kidding?
They already arrest you in Houston. They already arrest you in Houston if you don't finish the quote homework. And it's all worthless. The school's just teaching you how to not think and suck fluoride and drink Prozac.
Yeah, and the parents turned up 5 minutes late, and they were threatened with police and CPS.
Threatened? Here in Austin, if you're 5 minutes late, they criminally charge you when it's not even in the code and take your children.
And if you're truant for a day, you have to go to a truancy court. It's crazy. More quotes out of Nazi Germany. Parents were coerced, cajoled, and finally forced to institutionalize their children. Lies and deception combined with regulations and decrees served to ensure that parents committed their children to designated institutions. So it's all about getting people in the system. And in Nazi Germany, they used the racist ideology of feeble-mindedness, which was defined as anything.
Well, also, a woman in, like, 33, it's a famous case of eugenics really taking off in Germany. They used it in newspaper articles, sent a letter to Hitler saying, my daughter's retarded, please let me kill her. And the Fuhrer said, okay, kill her. And then he went and saw the killing, and it was so beautiful to kill the little girl, and so good, and the skulls on their hats and all the darkness, and oh, it's so loving. And now we have the bioethics boards and the eugenicists, and they're euthanizing the old people who are begging for water and food everywhere. And I have Wall Street Journal writers on who go witness them murdering people, and the general public has no idea what's going on. Just total darkness. Paul, I'm freaking out because it's all happening here.
I know it is. It's just scary. I mean, it makes me not even want to have kids.
No, you have to fight back. You have to fight back. When you and Ehan get married, you got to maybe go to a third world country or something. That'll probably be the last generation you can have free of them. But no, we're going into the scientific dictatorship of the one-child policy, the regulation, the genetic testing. They've announced it all, folks. It's all over. The end of our species as you know it, according to the UN and others. They're taking full control of our development.
And the way they're doing it is, you know, in Nazi Germany, it was the children that were designated as being incapable. Now it's the parents that are being designated as incapable.
Well, both. Exactly. Go ahead. Well, I mean, take the New Freedom Initiative that Bush passed. They say 1/2 of children are mentally ill and need to be put on Prozac. And when they have you, 67% of children nationwide in government hands are on psychotropics.
Which is a rigged game in itself, because by these same laws, parents are afraid to even lightly physically discipline their own child.
And then they get out of control, and the state gets them and gets to rape room them. And then they had one of the head of the psychiatrists for the state, it's in Endgame, And he told the legislature, he said, yeah, 67% are on these drugs because they've got bad genes.
Yeah, and in actual fact, it's because they've got, you know, they're playing video games all day. They're not disciplined properly. It creates this Clockwork Orange generation of wild, unruly scum.
And then they put them on the drugs, and then they get even crazier, and then there's more drugs. Go ahead.
And then there's more violent crime, which feeds into beef in the police state later on.